Imagine walking into a room where one person instantly commands attention, not through force, but through presence. Their words carry weight, their calm inspires trust, and their vision motivates action. What makes them different? Is it charisma, experience, or something deeper? Research shows that over 70% of leadership success stems not from innate talent but from learned emotional and behavioral skills. As John Maxwell famously said, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." The truth is, great leaders aren't born, they're built. According to decades of organizational psychology and executive coaching studies, effective leadership is less about authority and more about awareness. Scholars and coaches alike, from Daniel Goleman to Peter Drucker, agree that what separates extraordinary leaders from average ones is their ability to manage themselves before leading others. In leadership performance, you'll uncover the hidden frameworks behind influence, emotional regulation, and adaptability that shape every great leader's mindset. Think of leadership as an orchestra. Each instrument, your thoughts, emotions, values, and actions, must be tuned to create harmony. Without self-awareness, the music turns into noise. This book teaches how to recognize and manage your automatic reactions, helping you respond intentionally instead of reacting impulsively. It also dives deep into discovering the core values that drive your motivation, so your leadership remains authentic and purpose-driven. Ask yourself, do you lead from fear or from vision? Do you adapt when circumstances change, or do you cling to comfort? Leadership today isn't about rigid hierarchies, it's about fluid intelligence and emotional agility. As Simon Sinek reminds us, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. This link will show you how to create environments where your team can thrive, even under pressure. So, if you're ready to shift from managing tasks to inspiring transformation, let's dive in. Get ready to unlock the psychology of effective leadership, learn to harness your emotional intelligence, and build habits that make influence feel natural. Your journey toward becoming the kind of leader others aspire to follow starts now. About the authors. Jeffrey Hull is the executive director of the Institute of Coaching and a globally recognized leadership expert who speaks to thousands of leaders and coaches each year. Margaret Moore, the board chair of the Institute of Coaching and founder of 𝐒𝐜𝐢𝐞𝐬 Corporation, is a pioneer in the field of coaching psychology. Together, they've co-authored several influential works, including Flex, Shift, and the Coaching Psychology Manual, all of which help professionals unlock their full leadership potential. Key Takeaway 1. Mastering Emotional Intelligence, How Great Leaders Turn Triggers into Triumphs. Have you ever watched a brilliant leader unravel under pressure? Picture this: a senior executive storms into a meeting after a tense board call, frustration etched across his face. Within moments, the atmosphere shifts, voices soften, shoulders tense, and the once collaborative room turns into a silent battlefield. What happened? His unspoken emotions became contagious. Studies in organizational psychology revealed that a leader's mood can impact team performance by up to 30%, influencing motivation, trust, and even innovation. As Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Leadership, it seems, begins not with strategy, but with self-awareness. So why do smart, experienced leaders fall prey to their own emotional shadows? The truth lies in what experts call shadow behaviors, those unconscious patterns formed by past experiences that resurface under stress. Confidence mutates into arrogance, perfectionism becomes control, and ambition turns into impatience. These traits often start as survival tools, molded by our earliest challenges. But when left unchecked, they cloud judgment and erode trust. As neuroscientist Daniel Siegel explains, mindsight, the ability to perceive the mind of yourself and others, is the key to emotional balance. It's not about suppressing emotions, but rather learning to witness them before they take control. Think of your brain as a well-worn GPS. It tends to reroute every new situation through old coordinates. The result? You react, rather than respond. Imagine a leader whose anger used to explode in meetings learning instead to pause, breathe, and reframe frustration into clarity. It's not weakness, it's mastery. Just as a pilot studies the aircraft through turbulence, great leaders regulate emotional storms to keep the team on course. Ask yourself, when pressure mounts, who's flying your plane, your conscious self or your old patterns? That's where the conscious reset method comes in, a simple yet powerful practice to build emotional resilience and clarity. The process is straightforward. When triggered, pause and take several intentional breaths. Notice your physical sensations, tight shoulders, quicken pulse, and acknowledge them without judgment. Then ask, What response would best serve everyone involved? This mindful interruption rewires your automatic responses, giving you the space to lead with intention instead of impulse. Over time, it strengthens the neural pathways responsible for calm focus and compassionate decision-making, hallmarks of emotionally intelligent leadership. Ultimately, leadership mastery isn't about eliminating emotion, it's about channeling it with awareness and purpose. The best leaders are not those who never falter, but those who turn self-awareness into strength and vulnerability into vision. The next time frustration, fear, or doubt creeps in, remember, your response defines your impact. So take a breath, reset your mindset, and lead consciously. Because true leadership doesn't start in the boardroom, it starts within. Key takeaway 2. Authentic leadership, the power of leading with purpose and values. Imagine this: a CEO passionately presents her company's latest achievements, new investors, glowing media coverage, and ambitious growth targets. She paints a picture of disruption and innovation, declaring, "We're changing healthcare forever." Yet, as her words echo across the room, her team's eyes drift toward their phones. The energy fades. Why? Because while her vision dazzles, her message lacks one crucial ingredient: authentic connection. This scene is more common than we'd like to admit: leaders who inspire minds but fail to reach hearts. As leadership scholar Warren Bennis once said, leadership has the capacity to translate vision into reality. But even vision needs an anchor, values that give it meaning. Transformational leadership ignites excitement through bold ambition and a compelling future, while authentic leadership roots that ambition in personal truth. Think of transformational leaders as architects who draw grand blueprints of tomorrow, and authentic leaders as builders who ensure those blueprints rest on a solid moral foundation. Both are vital, but together, they create a structure that lasts. Take the case of our health tech CEO. Her vision to disrupt healthcare is powerful, but it becomes magnetic when tied to her why: her father struggles with outdated diabetic technology. When she shares that story, her mission transforms from abstract innovation into human impact. The team no longer just sees a goal, they feel a cause. This is the essence of values-based leadership: when your purpose and actions align, people follow not because they have to, but because they want to. Ask yourself, what truly drives your leadership? Who do you admire most, and why? Perhaps it's a leader who admits mistakes, one who empowers others, or someone who defends integrity over popularity. These reflections reveal your leadership DNA, the values that shape your decisions, relationships, and culture. When you identify these recurring themes, you're no longer leading by imitation but by intention. And that's where your most authentic power begins to emerge. So, as you move forward, remember, great leaders don't just talk about transformation, they embody it. Anchor your vision in authenticity, connect ambition with purpose, and lead from your deepest truth. Because leadership that lasts doesn't just disrupt industries, it transforms lives. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Simon Sinek. Next, we'll explore how to translate these values into consistent daily actions, turning your authentic vision into a living culture that inspires others to rise with you. Key takeaway 3: Agile leadership, mastering the art of adaptive power. Imagine leading a company where every week feels like a new battlefield, markets shift overnight, investor expectations fluctuate, and team dynamics evolve by the day. The leaders who thrive in this reality don't cling to one style, they adapt like water taking the shape of its container. According to the World Economic Forum, adaptability is one of the top 5 skills defining the leaders of the future. As Charles Darwin famously said, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, it is the one most responsive to change. The same is true for leadership in our fast-moving world. Take Sarah, a startup founder whose natural leadership style is built on collaboration. During product development, she's the heartbeat of creativity, inviting ideas, facilitating open discussions, and cultivating a climate where innovation thrives. But when an investor threatens to pull funding unless deadlines are met, Sarah transforms from consensus builder to commander. She sets firm expectations, delegates decisively, and leads with urgency. Her agility doesn't stem from inconsistency, it's from strategic awareness. She recognizes that different storms require different sails. This is the essence of adaptive leadership, understanding that strength lies not in rigidity, but in responsiveness. Similarly, consider Laura, a deeply empathetic school principal known for her relationship-centered approach. She invests in her teachers' emotional well-being, creates safe spaces for dialogue, and nurtures community. Yet, When sudden budget cuts force immediate layoffs, Laura doesn't freeze in compassion. She temporarily steps into a data-driven leadership mode, reviewing performance metrics and making decisions with clarity and fairness. Her heart stays the same, but her method evolves. That's the beauty of leadership flexibility, the ability to pivot without losing your core values. What separates leaders like Sarah and Laura isn't just skill, it's conscious adaptability. Agile leadership means knowing when to lead with empathy and when to lead with efficiency, when to consult and when to command. It's about holding tension between opposites, soft and firm, open and decisive, relational and results-driven, and switching between them with intentional grace. The best leaders are not defined by a single style but by their capacity to expand beyond it. As leadership expert John Maxwell once said, "Change is inevitable, growth is optional." So, if you're ready to elevate your impact, start cultivating your own adaptive muscle. Ask yourself, when do I cling to comfort instead of shifting to what the moment demands? Remember, great leaders aren't just consistent, they're consciously fluid. That's how you remain effective, no matter what challenges come your way. Next, we'll explore how to build the emotional agility and self-awareness that make this level of adaptive leadership possible, so you can lead with both strength and sensitivity in any situation. Key takeaway 4. Relational leadership, the quiet power of listening that transforms teams. In a world where leadership often gets confused with authority, the quietest skill can be the most transformative: listening. Picture this: Tom, a hospital administrator, receives a heated call from a frustrated department head about new policy changes. Most leaders would defend their decisions or justify their reasoning. But Tom pauses and simply asks, "Help me understand what's most concerning you about this change?" For 15 minutes, he listens more than he speaks. By the end, the anger has dissolved, replaced by a practical solution Tom hadn't even considered. This single act of restraint demonstrates a profound truth: great leadership isn't about having the loudest voice, it's about creating space where others feel heard. As leadership expert Stephen Covey once said, "Most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply." Tom's approach embodies relational leadership, a model that builds influence not through authority, but through connection. Research shows that leaders who follow the 80-20 listening rule, spending 4 times more energy listening than speaking, foster stronger collaboration and innovation. When people feel genuinely heard, defenses drop, creativity rises, and trust deepens. Effective listening for leaders isn't passive silence, it's active curiosity, asking open-ended questions, reflecting emotions, and creating psychological space for honest dialogue. This concept extends beyond conversations, it defines the emotional climate of an entire organization. Consider Lisa, a finance director who discovers a $200,000 calculation error in her team's projections. She could have blamed the analyst, but instead, she reframed it with calm perspective: "We found an error. These things happen when we move fast. Let's focus on what this means for our planning." In that moment, she didn't lower standards, she raised psychological safety in teams. By choosing empathy over ego, Lisa strengthened her team's courage to admit mistakes and take ownership in the future. Relational leadership isn't about being soft. It's about understanding that people perform best when they feel safe to speak up, take risks, and grow. Leaders who respond to setbacks with curiosity rather than criticism unlock a culture of innovation, because fear no longer blocks honesty. The most successful teams are not those without mistakes, but those that recover and improve quickly because they trust their leader to listen rather than judge. As author Simon Sinek reminds us, a team is not a group of people who work together. It is a group of people who trust each other. So, ask yourself, how often do you really listen to understand, rather than to reply? What might shift if your team knew they could bring problems to you without fear? True influence doesn't come from control, it comes from connection. Relational leadership is the art of turning communication into collaboration and authority into trust. Next, we'll explore how emotionally intelligent communication amplifies this trust, empowering you to lead with empathy, clarity, and purpose in every interaction. Key takeaway 5. Positive leadership: how empowerment and purpose turn burnout into brilliance. When teams start showing signs of burnout, missed deadlines, low morale, and quiet disengagement, most leaders instinctively tighten control: more check-ins, stricter deadlines, extra supervision. But what if the real solution isn't more control, but more freedom? Studies from the Harvard Business Review show that employee motivation and engagement rise dramatically when people feel trusted to make decisions. This approach, known as positive leadership, flips traditional management on its head by focusing not on compliance, but on the psychological drivers of well-being and performance. As leadership pioneer Richard Branson famously said, "Train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they don't want to." That mindset captures the essence of leading with purpose, empowering people to take ownership of their work rather than controlling every step they take. Take 𝐒𝐜𝐢𝐞𝐢, a software team leader who notices her developers drowning in process and burnout. Instead of micromanaging harder, she experiments with autonomy, flexible schedules, project choice, and hybrid work options. Within weeks, her team becomes more energized and innovative. The deadlines remain, but now they're fueled by intrinsic motivation, the desire to excel because the work feels like their own. This is the paradox of positive leadership: when leaders give up unnecessary control, they actually gain influence. 𝐒𝐜𝐢𝐞𝐢 didn't lose authority, she gained commitment. By allowing her team to shape their work, she activated a basic human need, the need for autonomy. People thrive when they feel their contribution matters, not when every move is dictated. The difference between pressure and purpose often comes down to whether people feel like passengers or pilots in their own workday. But autonomy alone isn't enough, meaning gives direction to that freedom. Consider Jordan, a district manager who transforms disengagement in his retail stores not by setting new targets, but by telling new stories. Instead of reciting sales data, he reminds his team of the lives they touch: the customer who regained confidence in a new outfit, the parent who found the perfect birthday gift, the job seeker who walked out ready to face their interview. By connecting ordinary tasks to extraordinary impact, he reignited their sense of purpose. And when people see purpose in their work, effort becomes effortless. Ultimately, positive leadership isn't about being nice, it's about being human. It's about understanding that the strongest teams are built not from control, but from connection, meaning, and trust. When leaders nurture autonomy and purpose, they don't just prevent burnout, they spark brilliance. So ask yourself, are you leading from control, or from contribution? The next step in your leadership journey will show you how to combine positivity with resilience, creating a culture where people not only perform but truly thrive. In summary, in a world where change is constant and complexity defines modern organizations, the science of leadership reveals a profound truth: great leadership isn't about control or charisma, it's about consciousness. Jeffrey Hull and Margaret Moore, both pioneers in leadership psychology, blend decades of research with real-world coaching experience to decode what truly separates impactful leaders from the rest. Their message is clear: leadership is a skill of awareness, adaptability, and authentic human connection, one that anyone can master through intentional practice. The book opens by exploring the concept of conscious leadership, urging readers to look inward before leading outward. Every leader, they explain, carries shadow behaviors, emotional patterns rooted in past experiences that resurface under stress. But awareness transforms everything. Through a method known as mindsight, leaders learn to recognize these automatic reactions and replace reactivity with choice. As Hull notes, you can't lead what you don't see, especially within yourself. The first step toward leadership mastery, then, is learning to pause before you act. Next, the authors dive into authentic leadership, the art of aligning your professional decisions with your deepest personal values. They contrast this with transformational leadership, which focuses on grand visions and external motivation. The most powerful leaders, they argue, blend both styles, inspiring others through vision while grounding their influence in genuine purpose. Through heartfelt stories, like the CEO who rekindled her team's passion by sharing her father's struggle with diabetes, the book reminds us that authenticity builds trust, and trust builds results. From there, Hull and Moore introduce agile leadership, a hallmark of 21st century success. They describe leaders who fluidly shift between styles, from collaborative to directive, analytical to empathetic, depending on the challenge. True agility isn't inconsistency, it's mastery. As they put it, the best leaders are not defined by one style but by their ability to dance between them. This adaptability, they show, is what allows leaders to remain steady through chaos and change. Another cornerstone of effective leadership is relational intelligence. Through stories like Tom, a hospital administrator who chose to listen instead of defend, the authors illustrate how influence flows through empathy and psychological safety. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, the authors remind us. By fostering open communication and trust, relational leaders create teams that innovate freely and confront challenges without fear. Then comes positive leadership, which flips traditional control-driven models upside down. Instead of enforcing rules, positive leaders empower their teams through autonomy and purpose. Leaders like 𝐒𝐜𝐢𝐞𝐬 and Jordan show how granting freedom and connecting work to deeper meaning can reignite passion and productivity. The lesson is timeless: when people understand why their work matters, they bring their whole selves to it. As the book beautifully puts it, meaning is the most powerful motivator of all. Each of the 9 capacities explored, from emotional agility to systemic awareness, builds upon this central theme, that leadership begins with self-awareness and expands through empathy, adaptability, and authenticity. It's not about titles, power, or perfection. It's about presence, purpose, and growth. Leadership, the authors remind us, is a continuous practice, a science grounded in human connection. So, if you've ever doubted your ability to lead, let this book remind you: leadership isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Every moment is a chance to pause, reflect, and choose to lead with awareness. If this message inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to spread the wisdom of conscious leadership. And if no one told you lately, remember this: you are loved, you are worthy, and you are spectacularly capable of achieving extraordinary goals.